In our sciences, it's really, really important to be able to use the skills that we've been developing to rearrange a formula for another variable. We sometimes call it solving a literal equation for a different variable. Man, this is used everywhere, from physics to chemistry to electricity and electronics and photography, and I mean thermodynamics. The list is just too large to create. In my opinion, one of the most important topics of all time, because we use it so much in our sciences. So what I'm going to do here is no numbers involved. We're going to rearrange this formula. This particular one I'd like to rearrange for the letter T, and I meant this to be a capital T, so let's do that. So I'm going to come over here and say that I'm going to solve this for the letter T. It's Boyle's law. Again, you know, I wish I was a little bit more up to sharp on my sciences. One thing you can do, the variable I'm looking to solve for is in the denominator. So many of us would just say, I'm going to grab my green pen here. Many of us would just say, let's clear that denominator. Let's multiply both sides by t to get it out of the denominator. That is what you should do. If you need to put a 1 under here, you're welcome to do that and set the cross products equal. But again, please remember that when I multiply by the LCD, which is t, then this t and this t cancel out, and t is no longer downstairs. I have p times v equals k times t, and now I want to get t alone. This reads k times t. Pretend that had a 2 in front of it, and you divide both sides by 2. Well, now it's got a letter in front of it, and we're going to divide both sides by k to get t alone. And so we have the letter t now can be found by taking PV times, I think this is some sort of a variation constant. I think this is pressure and volume and temperature in Boyle's law. But I've rearranged that formula for the variable t. Let's do a work problem. So let's go with, this is if two people were working together to do a project and they wanted to get the whole project done. They could complete the project in t hours or minutes or seconds or whatever if they work together. And A represents, maybe it's Sue. Sue can do the project in A hours and Sam can do it in B hours. That's their time alone. So their time together over their time alone represents a portion that one of the people would get done in terms of the project. And this is the portion that the other person would get done, and they want to finish the whole project. You didn't really need all that information, but this is called a work formula. And the least common denominator here is A times B. So I just learned that when I solve equations, I want to tell you that I want to solve this for the letter t. So let's solve for the variable t. So I've got to clear the denominators in order to get t alone. With the LCD being A times B, formally, I would say that I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation, therefore all terms, by the AB. But if you could, just notice this already had the A, it did not have the B, so the t is going to have to be multiplied by the b, and the fraction no longer exists. And this one already had the b, so this t here was going to have to be multiplied by the a, and denominator is gone. Remember, this didn't have anything in the denominator, just had a 1 in the denominator, and both sides had to be multiplied by that LCD, and now I'm rid of those denominators. I'm trying to solve for the letter t though, and if it occurs more than once in a problem, you've got to be sure that both of those terms are on one side, and then you got to factor it out. Much like, let me just compare it to this. When you have the expression 2x plus 8, and I ask you to factor that, you take the 2 out of each of those terms, and you have 2 times x plus 4. That's what I have to do here. In order to get t by itself, I have to factor the t out. And when I do, I'm going to need a b plus a here, because t times b is the tb, and t times a is that ta. And now to get t alone, because it reads t times all of that, I'm going to divide both sides by that b plus a, and I have rearranged this formula for the letter t And it is that I would take A times B, their time working alone, and multiply them together, and divide it by the sum of, I tend to put that in alphabetical order, the sum of their times working together. This was a story problem that we did when we were solving equations, and it was a work-related problem. Let's do one more. So let's take a look at another formula. It is my notes here say that this is a formula for the Doppler effect. F is the frequency of sound that is moving at a velocity v toward a listener who hears the sound as a different frequency, g. And so I want to solve this for the letter s, all right? And so I cannot have fractions. I've got s in the numerator, I've got s in the denominator. If you want to say to yourself, well, geez, the way to get rid of this denominator is to multiply both sides by that s plus v. That's exactly the case, because you have to clear the denominators. That is the LCD also, though. Please remember that that is the LCD. So over here, I have f times s plus v, and over here I have s times g. I'm trying to solve for s. So this has got an s in it, and there's an s over here. So in order to get that s over with that one, in order to solve for s, because you cannot divide by g right now and say you're done. You can't have your solution have the variable you're solving for in it. So s would be over here when you're solving for s, and that's not acceptable. So you have to distribute this. And then we want to get those s's together. So see this s here and see that s there? I'm going to subtract fs from both sides of this equation. And so I'll have this fv. And now I'm poised. Now I'm in a position to factor out the s out of each of these terms. I'm going to do that over here. So the left side I have f times v, and now I'm going to factor out that s. So I need a g minus f. When I factor out the s out of these two terms, this g minus f is in my binomial. And I want to solve for s, and since this is s times that, I'm going to divide both sides by the g minus f. And my solution for s is to take f times v divided by g minus f. This is an important tool because I may need to, what did s represent? S represented the speed of sound in a particular medium, you know, maybe steel or air or water. And so I wanted to find that speed of sound based on these frequencies and speeds. So I don't want to redo this calculation every time by putting it into the original form. It's a big hassle. So I'd rather just put the f, v, and g in to this single expression, and I'll have my solution for s. Let's pause, and I think I'm going to come back and do another clip on solving formulas for an indicated letter.